2020 Valparaiso Rotary Club meeting and our holiday program. Our mission is to grow diverse leaders for local service and global impact through meaningful and dynamic connections. How do you describe the organization called Rotary? There are so many characteristics of a Rotary Club, as well as the activities of a million Rotarians. There are the features of service, internationality, fellowship, classifications of each vocation, development of goodwill and world understanding, the emphasis on high ethical standards, concern for other people, and many, many more descriptive qualities. In 1976, the Rotary International Board of Directors was interested in creating a concise definition of the fundamental aspects of Rotary. They turned to three men who were then serving on Rotary's Public Relation Committee and requested that one sentence definition of Rotary be prepared. After numerous drafts, the committee presented this definition, which has been used ever since in various Rotary publications. Rotary is an organization of business and professional persons united worldwide who provide humanitarian service, encourage high ethical standards in all vocations, and help build goodwill and peace in the world. Those 31 words are worth remembering when someone asks, what is a Rotary Club? Right. I would like to thank Greg Farrell today for bringing us Zoom. And if you now would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America, to the republic.
All right, now I do have the invocation by Steve Zelahusky. He could not be with us today, so I will read what he has prepared for us. Hanukkah began last Friday, so I thought it would be fitting to lift up our Jewish brothers and sisters as they celebrate the Festival of Lights. Hanukkah dreams. Hanukkah, I think most dear of the feasts of all the year. I could sit and watch all night, every twinkling baby light. Father lights the first one green. Hope it always seems to mean. Hope and strength to glow anew in the heart of every Jew. Jacob lights the blue for truth. Pink for love is lit by Ruth. Then the white one falls to me, white that shines for purity. How the story of those days fills my wondering heart with praise, and in every flame one sees the heroic Maccabees. Happy Hanukkah, everyone. Have a great week, stay healthy, and take care of yourselves. Do we have any visiting Rotarians or guests today? Deb?
Yes, I have a guest. Oh, sorry. My dean, Nick Earhart, is my guest. Hi, Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Melissa, thank you all. Thank you, Melissa, again for the invitation. I'm getting to remember some of the names and faces here. It's really a privilege to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Deb?
I have our speaker's mom with me today. I'm partial to mothers. So her name is Peggy Potempa. Peggy is a longtime instructional assistant at an elementary school, and for the last several years, she's been Phil Potempa, our speaker today, his assistant in cooking and planning events. So Peggy, if you just wave and say hi. She's probably muted, so she's on the red shirt.
Hi, Peggy. Thanks for joining us today. Anyone else have a guest? No? All right. I will turn it over to Mr. Larry Raber, our Sergeant of Arms.
I'm unmuting.
Larry, you need to unmute.
I know. I'm unmuting him, and he's not accepting. Come on,
Oh,
Larry. I'm asking to unmute you. You have to accept. Come on, Larry. Right? Nope.
You know,
There
thank
he
you.
is. Thank you, Larry. You have to accept the unmute. You're live now, Larry. Can you start over?
Oh, I'm live now. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So
My
everybody knows.
granddaughter's standing here. She tells me what to do, and that's the only reason I'm here.
All right, you're on.
I'm on. Well, thank you. I didn't get interrupted to do that. And I the other day, you know, I got great news. A good news time. I got very good news. A real big surprise on Thanksgiving Day. We got a call, and Sue and I became great grandparents, and that's our first one. And that's really neat. John,
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. They, yeah, a granddaughter they'd been on the adoption list for a couple of years, and on Thanksgiving Day, they got a notice at 3 o'clock. You got a baby. You can come pick it up, and that was an hour away. You don't get any notice. You got to be ready when they call. And anyway, a beautiful boy, just great.
Aw.
That's for sure. So we're real happy about that, and that he's here. And somebody, I think in Rotary, told me that I can have great grandchildren, but I can't call myself a great grandparent. So that I don't know who that was there, but he used to be a friend of mine, and to do that. And Ray, I think Rick is here. I think he is, and I always ask Rick if I want to know something, and I ask him how long I was in Rotary, because I always forget things to do that. And he said it was 56 years, and which is really hard to believe, except back then you could join Rotary when you were 16 years old. So a lot of kids got in Rotary to do that. And you can always believe everything I say to do that. Anyway, that's my big news, for today. And Rick, if you want to know anything, just ask Rick. He's got everything you've ever done and whatever in his computer. He knows where you've been and everything about you. And so be real careful with him. Don't give him any stuff like I do, because you never know. He may be making notes, for that. But no, he does a great job. And Dawn, you do a terrific job. Thank you very much.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I'll give Dawn a hand, okay?
Not necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's a big job if you got me involved, so that's okay.
This is
all right.
true.
Thank you. Yeah. Who else got good news? Anything you want to share? Richard.
Rex does.
I don't think it's been mentioned, but our state has two fabulous football teams that are rated in the top 10 in all the colleges for the year. Of course, our good school, Notre Dame. And for those of us that are an IU alum, it's IU. So I'm really happy that we've got two fantastic schools rated in the top 10 in college football.
Yeah, well, that's great news. Thank you for sharing that.
Looks like we might have a bucket game this weekend too for IU Purdue. If the cases are low enough, they have a game. They look like they moved it on to this weekend, so we'll see.
Oh, that's great. Who else got something? Yes, Barb.
I'm so excited. I now have a John Deere tractor to play with outside. So it'll give me something to do during the long winter when we're not going to Rotary.
Thank you. All right, who else can something?
I don't see anybody else, Larry.
Okay, I forgot to mention when we were talking
Oh,
about.
Chris got it. There you go, Chris.
Yeah, so sorry, I'm in the kitchen right now because my office is being used for Angel Tree. But we are excited that this past Saturday, we finally got the gold coin. And I thought it was going to be around $200 to $300. It was a small Canadian gold coin, but it's actually worth over $1,800. So we are very thankful that we received that in the kettle this weekend.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, to do that. I forgot to mention with Rick, he knows everything about you. Actually did me a favor. He wrote my new obituary and it's really quite good. And he didn't mention Stu Summers, so that's okay. And to do that. Anyway, anybody got anything else they need to say or want to say? Well, Dawn, what are you doing with this whole chain of Kroger stores you own anyway?
Well, I'm 1 E off of owning that. So I have to make my own millions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you, Larry. Merry Christmas. All right. I do see Dr. Aaron Case is on. He is the superintendent of East Porter County Schools, and we are excited to have him join us as a transfer from another Rotary Club. So welcome, Dr. Case. I also wanted to have to announce a couple of things before we turn it over to Deb, announcing our speaker today. One is our holiday giving. Our recipient is Salvation Army. We are currently up to $1,395 in donations to the Salvation Army. So thank you all very, very much for your generosity. And if you would like to donate, then you can do so, I think, through tomorrow. Mail your checks by tomorrow, please. Also wanted all of you to know that we do give an annual gift to Old Town Banquet and Wendy and her staff. And Tim Warner is taking care of doing that for us this year. So we won't all be in person to give them the thanks and the appreciation, but please know that we did give them their Christmas gift this year. All right, I would like to turn it over to Deb Wappel as she will introduce our speaker and his holiday program for us today. Deb?
Hello, good afternoon. I'm here to introduce someone who is probably a friend of many of you also, and it's Phil Potempa. He's going to do our Christmas program today. Even though many of you probably know Phil, I doubt you have known him as long as I have, because we first came in to knowing each other when he was a lanky, quick basketball player, and I was his coach. And I'm telling you, that 5th grade basketball team was awesome, or at least interesting. I'm not going to say what year that was. Phil's mom also worked with me at that school, and she was my very first friend when I moved to this new area 15 minutes down the road. So Phil is popular for his Of Notoriety entertainment column and his weekly From the Farm recipe column and other feature stories that appear in the Post Tribune and the Chicago Tribune's newspaper chain, as well as on the chicagotribune.com. He began covering entertainment in Indiana, Michigan, and Illinois for the South Bend Tribune in 1992, before joining the Times of Northwest Indiana and Illinois in 95, where he worked for 2 decades as a features writer and daily entertainment newspaper columnist. Audiences also know Phil from his From the Farm stage cooking shows and weekly Wednesday afternoon radio shows on WJOB. He's the author of 4 published cookbooks, chronicling interviews, special recipes and memories, and many celebrities are interviewed in his books, and memories from personal and professional experiences. Last year, he published his 4th cookbook. I have all of his books here. behind me. They were literally roasting by an open fire and beginning to smell like cinnamon spice and everything nice. And like Rick Urschel, don't tell Phil anything or give his mama pie because it might end up on the front cover of his book. I should have made my lattice straight. So I'll take these down because they're hot. They're hot off the shelf. So he continues to share with readers his journalism journey while featuring favorite celebrated recollections from all these interviews. And he's also an adjunct professor of communications at Valpo University and Purdue University Northwest. When he's not lecturing in the classroom or in the theater seat, he divides his time between the family farm here down my road in Northwest Indiana and his home in Chicago. He has judged so many contests, I couldn't mention them. He's busy doing book signings all the time, and he plays a mean game of croquet on the farm yard. So he's one of the busiest people I know. Today, his program is going to be a three-pronged. It'll include, he's going to give us a video tour of the 20 themed decorated trees at the Performing Arts Center, where he is, he didn't mention that, director of something, you better tell him, Phil. And then he's going to give us a history of Charles Dickens. And finally, he and his field editor, Krista Zavanovich, will treat us with one scene, old-fashioned radio style from the Dickens Christmas Carol. So welcome, Philip Potempa.
Unmuted, everybody can hear me all right?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Deb, thank you. All this time I thought that fireplace behind you was one of those video TV ones that was just playing in the background, but it's a real fireplace, so those books were dangerously close. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining, and there are a lot of familiar faces out there. Usually I'm thinking of years ago sitting at Strongbows for these meetings, and I saw Jane Maxwell out there as well. She has a fantastic tart cherry pie recipe in one of the cookbooks that's still always the go-to. So Jane, you're always remembered during the holidays. As Debbie said, it would be a crime to come to you live from the Performing Arts Center, the Center for Visual and Performing Arts in Munster, Indiana on Ridge Road, or as you know it, down Porter County Way, Highway 6, and not at least give you a quick glimpse of the holiday trees, which are very festival. So I'm going to carry the laptop in the atrium just to give you a little quick overview. I apologize, I don't want to make anybody dizzy, but just kind of bear with me here, and we're going to walk on through the doors and take a look at some trees before the rest of the program. I will show you the front entrance here, our social distancing penguins that we have as you enter the ballroom. So if that doesn't encourage people to keep their distance, hopefully at least gives them a smile in between masks. All right. The atrium of the Performing Arts Center here on Ridge Road. You'll see the trees that are set up. Each of the trees has a different theme, so I thought you might kind of enjoy seeing a glimpse of what some other businesses a little farther north are doing to get some ideas. The front tree is the Symphony Orchestra, which has its home in the Performing Arts Center, decorated with musical instruments and musical notes. We hope that we turn a corner with this virus, and into the year 2021, we're able to have musical performances here. As Deb mentioned, I wear the hat of being the director of marketing at the Performing Arts Center as well. The front atrium tree is the chef and caterer here at the Trauma Catering. It took first place this year, filled with cookies and candies and hand-decorated painted ornaments to remind of the Sunday champagne brunch that usually would be here in that ballroom that we just left. And the main atrium, you'll see everything from a garden club decorated with sunflowers, which I know the Waffle Farm has plenty of fields of sunflowers, as well as a lot of trees that help out with charity causes this year, which is fantastic. If you've never seen a tree filled with socks and underwear, now you have this tree. Everything that is here will be donated then to some of the centers in the area that can put all the socks and underwear and pajamas to good use. The other tree I want to point out that I thought everybody would enjoy is the one that will be given all the items to the food pantry. This is the Munster Girl Scouts. So look at all these tiers, lots of Campbell's soup, all the food here collected will go to the local food pantry. So just some ideas for you to see a little taste of Christmas Lake County side. the ball. And a quick little glimpse at the life of Charles Dickens is what the next segment is Deb reminded. I'm just going to check every once in a while to make sure, now that I'm back here, everybody can still hear and see me okay? Got thumbs ups? Okay. I think a lot of people think they know a lot about Charles Dickens, the great author, but unfortunately, it's not a real happy life. So if you've read the different novels over the years and seen some of those larger than life characters, they're inspired and they come right from his own personal experiences. Of course, the most famous of his works, I think this time of year, would be A Christmas Carol, is the one that most of us all think about. And that's the scene that you are going to see a little bit later. And I'll talk a little bit about that interview. And the person over my shoulder as well, that's going to be my co-collaborator with that scene that will give you the taste of. Charles Dickens, unfortunately, you would think that, and this is the part that surprised me the most, all of you are successful folks in the world of community and business and endeavors. You would think that Charles Dickens, with the many, many works that he published, everything from Oliver Twist, which was one of the first most recognizable titles, of course, Tale of Two Cities, David Copperfield, all these different works, you would think that just the publishing rights alone, many of these, of course, later on were transformed into stage productions or also, much later into films. You would think that these works, since they live on today, would have provided a comfortable living for himself and his family, which unfortunately was not the case. So one of the morals of the story here, I guess, is make sure that you always have your paperwork and a lawyer that's handy within arm's length away, because Charles Dickens always suffered in a number of financial dire straits throughout his career and his life. He started out poor and he ended poor. So when you see the mention of the workhouses or hear about them in the mentions of Christmas Carol in those scenes, or of course Oliver Twist being in the workhouse or in the poorhouse, this is where Charles Dickens spent a number of his life. His father had gone bankrupt early on, so he really didn't have a whole lot of means. So he had to rely on his own wits and his personality and his character in order to provide and sustain himself. And you use whatever abilities you have, which is what I know all of you in each of these squares that I'm staring at have done the same. Use all your God-given talents. And in his case, writing for magazines, for newspapers. And one of the things that I identify so much with him, it's not a talent everybody has. It's one that he was able to put pen to paper and make a living on it. So much of a living that he and his wife, once they were married, had 10 children to provide for. So you can imagine 10 children. Thinking about today, the folks that are sheltered in and doing homeschooling, e-learning, 10 children would be even more difficult, even with or without Zoom. So a large family to provide for, he had to use all of his talents and create what you see are one remarkable work after another. And I just mentioned just a few of them. The very first copies of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, the publisher realized they had true talent there because they were willing to invest in it. And that first book, it sold for 5 shillings, and it was bound in a very elaborate kind of a red cloth cover. The most expensive ones, of course, would be leather bound. This had a red cloth cover, but it had gold gilt pages, which I know you've all seen in a lot of older books and things to show kind of a bit of means or a certain social standing about the work. And it had illustrations in it, about 4 to 6 illustrations. But what was so unusual is there were at least a few of those that were color, which was very unusual during the 1800s, because you got to remember, Christmas Carol came out in 1843. So it's very unusual to have that type of a quality for the publisher to put that in there. Unfortunately, it's not something where in the world of books, usually you have an advance, and then after the advance, you have the royalties that keep coming off. This is where it did not exist back then. And it's a still common theme that happens right on through today. Even somebody like, we had a presentation of a dinner and movie night here in the ballroom of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. By the time Alfred Hitchcock had made The Birds, he had made so many films as a director, and he, of course, had a very successful television show. Even then, he was so financially strapped that he had to mortgage his house in order to make the next film that was coming up, which was Psycho. So it just goes to show that, again, it may seem as though if you have a lot of success in your career, a lot of times it doesn't always come back or flow the same direction. And that was the case with Charles Dickens. Also, to further complicate things, he lived in a world where he always had financial a tough time meeting financial ends to meet. And at the same time, he was still a local, and not just a local, he was a celebrated personality, a celebrity in their day. So we think of the comings and goings that we read about today, Charles Dickens would rate in that same category. He was often fodder in all the same newspapers where his stories would appear in. Think about it, there's not any TV or radio, and at that time, there's only stage and literary greats. So he was a celebrity, and his comings and goings were always written about, including his alleged extracurricular activities, including an affair with an actress, which eventually broke up his marriage. And we know that add to a divorce onto their other life strains, and it's not an easy time. When we revisit again Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, of all the characters that are based on him, I don't know if you would select the correct ones. It's not Scrooge. It's the character of the Bob Cratchit and his family are the ones that were most close akin to his own life story. A matter of fact, Charles Dickens' own little brother was crippled in A Christmas Carol. The character, of course, is Tiny Tim. But growing up, his little brother was known as Tiny Fred. Fred was his name. Although the name of Fred sneaks into A Christmas Carol because that's the name he gives his Uncle Scrooge's nephew. So again, he pulled on a lot of his own personal experiences time and time again in those works. In the very, very final years of his life, in order to make a living, he had left, again, his wife and he were divorced, and so he was with the young actress that he had taken up with. He traveled the country doing one-man show versions of A Christmas Carol. So a lot what you're going to see here, that's what he did. He was quite popular on the stage because, again, he was a noted celebrity. So he would do his own one-man show of A Christmas Carol, doing all 23 of the voices. So if my collaborator, editor Krista today are having a trouble with just the few voices we've split up, since she does all the women and I do all the men voices for this old radio telling that we have coming up this Friday at the Center of Visuals and Performing Arts for our dinner show. There's a lunch performance at noon and then the dinner show in the evening with all of our sound effects coming right here from on stage. I can't imagine how Dickens was able to master this by himself. He died at the age of 58, which is not very old in our standards today, but back then folks didn't live all that long. He died at age 58, and it was a fatal stroke that brought on by the stress of what he endured. And he's buried in Westminster Abbey, which one of the sound effects that we use in our show is the chiming of a clock with Westminster Abbey to give a nod to him. A couple things I want to show that are some pieces that are related to Dickens that you might find fascinating, interesting. Are any of you familiar long enough with the Valparaiso community to remember right downtown, just a stone's throw from the courthouse, a very ornate and elaborate antiques gallery run by Larry Sydow and his wife? Do you remember Sydow's Antiques? Anybody there? If not, they sold a lot of rare antiques, but also they sold a few manuscripts and autographs, one of which I purchased 30 years ago, being Charles Dickens. So his autograph is one of the most sought after for historical figures because it's very unique. So you're getting a rare chance to see his original autograph on an old bank draft. So I'm going to slowly take it towards the camera. Look at his autograph, and underneath the way it's signed, and I'm hoping it'll focus, you can kind of see, he puts several squiggly lines. And I don't know, are you seeing that? Give me a thumbs up if you can see all the squiggle lines underneath that autograph. Is it focused enough that you can kind of get a little idea of it? So this is a rare photograph of, I'm sorry, this is the bank draft that is, of course, it's encased in this frame, but this bank draft is signed by Charles Dickens. Also, I mean, you would think that going on and on and on, there's so much merchandising with Dickens. I just held up the book, but this is a favorite piece. I have to do the voice of Jacob Marley, Scrooge's business partner. This is a Christian Steinbach nutcracker. These are very highly sought after, made in Germany. They're sold at Phillips Gift Gallery. If you're familiar with Phillips Gift Gallery in Valparaiso, they're one of the few places that still have these. But this is in the guise of Jacob Marley, the business partner of Scrooge, who comes to warn him about the three ghosts that are going to visit him. And of course, he's bogged down by ledgers and cash boxes and many, many chains, kind of like the chains that we feel that is the year 2020. We're almost to the end of our chain links. We're hoping as we turn a corner in 2021. There's a number of sound effects that we have during our performance, and one of the ones I want to show you that is interesting is the effect of rain. So if you can see this, This is a dried piece of cactus. You can see all the little dots where all of the thorns would be sanded off. But this is a dried piece of cactus. This is going to make the sound effect of rain. Of course, we're in London in Dickens' era for telling a Christmas carol. It's foggy, it's rainy, it's damp, not much snow. But inside this piece of cactus are all the dried seeds. So when I turn it over, you're going to hear the sound effect of rain. So I once again, just so I can check, give me a thumbs up. Are you able to hear me out there? Okay, here we go. Were you able to hear that? Debbie's giving me a thumbs up. Same effect. If you want it to be just not a downpour and just a drizzle, you do it real quietly. Kind of sound like rain on a roof, maybe perhaps. So these old-time Foley radio effects were, of course, were used in the medium of radio. And as Deb mentioned, I do a radio show on Wednesdays at WJOB in Hammond here. And of course, we don't use the sound effects that we have here because everything is all one button away. But it's fascinating how the sound effects are created. All right, so if we're ready, are we ready for a short little tease from our adaptation of A Christmas Carol? We'll give you the opening scene, since everybody are business and community leaders here, and we know how charitable you are. We just heard about the gold coin that was dropped in. So we're going to start with the opening scene when Scrooge is working hard in his counting house, and he's visited by the folks that are looking for charity to help those that are in need. So are we ready for it? Thumbs up? Okay, here we go. I'm gonna do that last little line there. Get us into it. All right, I'm introducing away from my collaborator. This is Krista Zavanovic, my longtime editor at the Times newspaper. She is co-starring with me in this production. So I'll join her on stage and we will begin. And the best part is you don't have to see us necessarily because all you need to hear for this production, since it's a radio show. All right, another test out one more time. Can you hear us okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear us. All right, then we are ready to go with our narrator to start us off.
And so, once upon a time, of all the good days in the year on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat, busy in his counting house. It was cold, bleak, fighting weather, foggy and dark withal, as our story thus begins.
A Merry Christmas, Uncle. God save you. It's your nephew, Fred. Bah, humbug. Christmas a humbug, Uncle? You don't mean that, I'm sure. I do. Merry Christmas. What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough. Oh, come then, Uncle. Then what right have you to be dismal? What reason have you to be so morose? You're rich enough. Don't be cross, Uncle. Bah, humbug. What else can I be when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas. Out upon Merry Christmas. What's Christmas time? But a time for having to pay more bills without money? A time to find yourself a year older but not an hour richer? A time for balancing your books at the end of the year and having every item in them round about a dozen months presented dead against you? If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about the Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled in his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly right through his heart. He should, nephew. Keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine. But keep it you don't keep it, then let me alone. Much good may it do you. Much good has it ever done you. There are many things, Uncle, from which I might have derived good, but which I have not profited, I dare say, Christmas among the rest. And therefore, Uncle, Though it has never been put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe it has done good for me, and it will do good for me. I say God bless it.
At that very moment, in that very room, sat Bob Cratchit, cold and shivering, because old Scrooge did keep the room so cold for himself and his poor clerk, who at that very moment did indeed spring to life upon hearing this exchange, and impulsively began to clap after hearing what Fred had said to his uncle.
Let me hear another sound out of you, Cratchit, and you'll keep Christmas by losing your situation. Oh, don't be so cross with him, Uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow. Come and meet my wife. I'd rather see you in hell first. But why? Nay, Uncle, you never came to see me before I got married as well, and now you seem to give it as the reason for not coming now. I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. Why cannot we be friends? Good afternoon to you. I am sorry, but with all my heart, I still find you so resolute. We have never had any quarrel, none to which I am a party, but I may have made a trial on homage to Christmas, and I will keep my Christmas humor to the last. So a Merry Christmas to you, Uncle. And again, I say to you, good afternoon.
As Scrooge's nephew walked out, someone new slipped in through the door, pleasant to behold, and with a small book and pencil in hand, another cheery voice addressed Scrooge as his clerk Bob Cratchit said nothing, with head down, continuing his work. Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Who is it at my door now? What business do you have? Mr. Marley has been dead for 7 years. As a matter of fact, he died 7 years ago this very night.
We have no doubt his liberality is well represented by his surviving father. At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, it is more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provision for the poor and destitute who suffer greatly at the present time. Many thousands are in want of common necessaries. Hundreds of thousands are in want of common comforts, sir.
Are there no prisons left?
Plenty of prisons.
And the union workhouses, are they still in operation?
They are still. I wish I could say they were not.
The treadmill, the poor law, they're in full vigor then?
Both. Very busy, sir.
Oh, well, I was afraid from what you had said first that something had occurred to stop them in their useful course. I'm very glad to hear it.
But they scarcely furnish Christian cheer of mind or body to the multitude. Therefore, a few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. We choose this time because it is a time of all others when want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices. What shall I put you down for?
Nothing.
You wish to be anonymous.
I wish to be left alone and don't make any merry. I make no merry myself at Christmas, and I can afford the idle people that do make merry. I help to support the establishments I have mentioned. They cost enough. Those who are badly off must go there.
Many go there, and many would rather die.
If they would rather die, they'd better do it then and decrease the surplus population. Besides, excuse me, I don't know that.
But you might know it.
It's not my business. It's enough for a man to understand his own business and not to interfere with those of other people's. Mine occupies me constantly. Now, good afternoon.
With disappointment, she departed just as the clock began to toll, signaling time for shutting up the counting house. With an ill will, Scrooge turned to his faithful clerk, Bob Cratchit, to address him.
You'll be wanting the whole day off tomorrow, Cratchit, I suppose. If it is quite convenient, sir. It is not convenient when I pay a day's wages for no work. A poor excuse for picking the man's pocket every 25th of December. But I suppose if you must have the whole day, but Be here all the earlier the next morning. All right, were you able to hear that? Always a good reminder for all of us, be as business leaders, community leaders, everybody, to make sure we keep in mind all those less fortunate and give back to our community, which all of you do. And most of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of your holiday experience for the program today. I certainly appreciate it. And thank you, Mrs. Waffle, and for all of you for thinking of me. And I hope I get to see all of you soon in person around the corner.
Wonderful. Thank you, Phil, for being here with us, for sharing your time, your talents, your gifts. What an amazing program. Thank you so very much. Bye-bye. Thank you. All right, I have a few closing comments. One, we are headed quickly towards the end of the year. So if you do wish to donate to our library project, please complete your pledge form by the end of the year, 12/31. The gift isn't actually due until next year, but if you're wishing to give a gift or pledge a gift, please have that to us by 12/31. Tomorrow night is our last Rotary chat for the year, so I will send out a reminder and a Zoom link if you would like to join us tomorrow night at 7 to connect with Rotarians, talk about the holidays, anything else on your mind. We'd love to have you. There is no meeting next week, which is December 21st. There is no meeting on the 28th either. So I would like to wish all of you a wonderful and a happy holiday season, and we will see you again on January 4th. Thanks so much, and to close our meeting, would you please join me in the four-way test? Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you so very much, everyone. Happy holidays. Take care. Stay safe and healthy.